is the 14th year that we've looked at the loyalty leaders list. It's a cross-category view, which gives us an amazing perspective regarding how brands are trying and they're either succeeding or not succeeding in meeting customer expectations. With any kind of list, even one as accurate as ours, I mean, we see movement. I mean, it's not static. Something does not remain in place just because brands wish it would. And we see movement up and down the list. Up is better. It means that brands are better meeting expectations. We've seen brands that have returned to the list, have moved up the list. Brands like McDonald's, for example. I mean, they've done very well reconfiguring menus, reconfiguring price points, reopening stores, quite honestly, that were closed during the pandemic, and people are reacting positively, and they're seeing results to their bottom line. State Farm insurance generally not being the most interesting category in the world, but was one of the largest movements up the list this year. And I actually shouldn't be surprised, because when we look at the brand within category, not even cross category, they are number one in every one of the consumer insurance categories that we look at. So yeah, cause and effect. I mean, you know, they do very well. From a media perspective, MSNBC, for example, which has always been pretty high on the list, and to be balanced, Fox has been high on the list too. It represents the two ends of the political spectrum, but from a loyalty perspective, people are very loyal to the brands. MSNBC has moved up almost 20 points, 20 places on the list. That's an incredible move. We look at, maybe why, you kind of go, well, the expectation that you have regarding media and news is that it's going to inform me. And I think, our time, we do the study every year the same time, but I think the timing of the January 6th hearings, which MSNBC ran from beginning to end 24/7, was something that their loyal viewers felt met their expectations better. And as a result, they moved them up the list. Most of the time, there's an actual explanation for why loyalty drops off. The two, I'm fighting the urge to call them the losers, although they lost rank on the list, and we generally would say, loyalty losers, were Purell and Clorox, who had been new to the list 2 years ago, moderately high on the list last year, and this year they're still on the list, but they're down, 50 some points. Yeah, I want to point out that even though we've got what we really do term as the losers, the top 100 brands only represent 6% of the entire database of brands that we look at. It's almost 1,700 brands. So ending up being number 61 on the list is not terrible, but it is telling us from a cross-category perspective what kinds of things are happening in terms of consumer expectations, consumer needs, the kind of things that brands need to do in order to maintain the kind of loyalty resonance that you'd like. I mean, from a category perspective, things pretty much spread out. We didn't see things that shifted one way or the other for one particular category or another. The one thing I found, I guess, surprising and interesting was that I would have thought that most of the top brands were going to end up being high-tech brands. I think those are the ones that seem to be able to turn on a dime regarding what people expect and what consumers need and so on and so forth. But that wasn't the case. I mean, retail, tech is in there, but retail, food and beverages, those made up the lion's share of more than half of the brands that showed up on the list, including technology. I'm always kind of taken by the new brands that show up. And when I say new, that means the ones that now are in the top 100. I know it doesn't surprise anyone when you see someone like Pfizer showing up on number 5 on the list. I mean, you know, we're not, this isn't a popularity contest. It's a measure of how well these brands are meeting expectations within a category. And so if you're talking about vaccinations and you know, and healthcare, it isn't a surprise. I mean, it shouldn't be a surprise that they show up. Moderna shows up on the list new, a little lower than Pfizer, and I don't think in the top 20, but you know, they're there. What did surprise me was that the I want to get the term right. That's why I'm looking for it. 2 plant-based meat brands showed up on the list this year. Beyond Meat and Impossible Foods, both showing up in the top 100. You know, what do they say? You know, 1 is an accident. You know, 2 is not an accident. 2 is telling you something about the category and about how consumers are looking at that category. As more of the automotive brands get into the electric vehicle category and expectations regarding that category expand, you're going to see more automotive brands appear on the list. I think you're going to see some of the, because expectations regarding novelty are always something that you can see when it comes to entertainment. Yeah, we've got entertainment brands on the list. And if you had asked me to bet, I would have told you that Netflix would have been in the top 5 brands as it has been for a long time. It is not. Netflix dropped to 8th place this year, which again is not a bad thing, but on this list, it's a leading indicator in terms of how the brand is going to do. This is not investment advice. It's just pointing out that, so who's taking their place? Well, Paramount Plus showed up on the list for the first time, moderately high. Disney Plus Disney as a brand generally has always shown up on the list, but Disney Plus has shown up very high on the list. And so it's telling me that there are value shifts that are going on, expectation shifts that are going on in terms of expectations. And so if I were HBO Max, or I were Discovery Plus, or I were ESPN, I'd be looking real hard at where the values are going.